guys. Welcome to the FFL Limitless Weekly Agency Call. We have a very special guest today, Mr. Adam. Is it Mostel? Is that how you pronounce it?
Mostel, yeah.
Mostel. What a cool last name. Everyone drop an AM in the comments below if you're fired up to hear from Adam today. Adam, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us how long you've been with FFL and how you got started in the life insurance industry.
Yeah, so my name's Adam Mostel. I've been with FFL about a year and a half now, and I got started in insurance. Honestly, I was not really looking for a career in insurance, but a friend of mine, he started working with FFL. He was loving it, killing it, and he thought I'd be a great fit. So a good friend of mine, Dima Yoko, shout out Dima, brought me on, and yeah, it's been awesome.
That is awesome. And how do you know Dima?
We met actually online. We used to trade stocks and crypto together. So yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. And so what were you doing before, prior to this?
So prior to insurance, I was a full-time like musician. I was touring and recording and doing all that. And then obviously COVID hit. So that kind of came to a standstill, right? So I was looking for something different, and this is like checks all the boxes for what I want to do. So yeah.
Awesome. And how was your experience from when you started FFL kind of to where you are now? Did you were you one of those agents that just hit the ground running? Did it take you a while to get going? Talk about that.
It took me about like a month and a half, really. Like I started in March, but I wasn't really like consistently producing until May of that year. But it was pretty quick. If you just like study your script, get comfortable, a lot of people tend to overthink things, make it more complicated for themselves. But if you take a pretty, relaxed professional approach, it's just like anything, people are gonna appreciate your genuine attitude, and yeah.
I love that. I love that. So when you started, what was your lead spend like?
Oh, when I started, it was like, I don't know, like 500,000 bucks a week. It was really low. It's basically like anytime I'd sell a policy, I'd just reinvest. I just buy another batch of leads and buy another license and just kind of keep it going like that.
Did you have that? Because you didn't come from a business where and had to invest money to make money. Did you always have that fear in the back of your head when spending money in leads, like, oh, I might not make this money back?
Yeah, well, I mean, so I used to trade a lot of stocks and crypto and stuff. And coming from that, I just kind of viewed this all as like a risk to reward ratio. You
Yeah.
know, it's the same way, I viewed it the same way when it came to like trading. It was like if, if I'm risking this much money, I stand to make this much. And quite frankly, the risk to reward ratio with this in this business is pretty unreal. Every 500 bucks you spend, you stand to make anywhere from, 1,000 to, who knows how much, right? But we all know the average policy is about 1,000 bucks. So it's a pretty clean risk to reward formula, honestly.
I love that. And have you ever invested money into leads and not made your money back?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's gotten, dud batches of leads. I mean, it happens, not every week is going to be a killer week, and not every day is going to be a killer day, but month to month, it's consistent, but day to day, I mean, some days you're not going to make a sale. Some days you're going to protect 10 families in a day. It's just the way the game is, it's all probability. It's just a numbers game. If you're putting in the activity, you're gonna get the results you want.
And that's what it comes down to, is just putting in the work. Go ahead and go through what a week of Adam Mostel's life looks like within FFL. What's your daily routine? What time do you wake up? What time do you start dialing the phones?
Yeah, so I wake up at about 6 every day. I eat like a quick breakfast, like I have some oatmeal or something, go to the gym, get a good workout in, which I find very important. I'm a big believer in like you know, every day you're going to face struggles in this business. It's sales, right? So you're going to deal with rude people. You're going to deal with people that everyone's saying, I don't want this, hanging up on you, all that kind of stuff. And if you can get the hardest thing that you're going to do all day done in the beginning of the day, the
Yes.
rest of the day is like a cakewalk. I mean, it's like, with like ice baths, they say like if you go in an ice bath and you sit in a bath of ice for 3 minutes, it lowers your anxiety, lowers your stress. And anything that you take on throughout the day, it's going to be way less stressful because you already did the most challenging thing. So, I wake up, get a workout in, come home, get a little stress, de-stress, just kind of chill with my cat for a little bit, hit the phones at about 8:45, 9 o'clock, dial till about noon, maybe like 12:30, take a quick lunch, and then, work till, 5, sometimes I work till 7, 8, really just whatever needs to get done. Sometimes I have a ton of appointments, but overall the goal is, you're not getting off until you're making, at least 500 dials, or making $1,000. It's
Yeah.
one or the other.
Yeah, I love that you said that. And I love that you brought up the whole workout thing. I actually reposted a post this morning that says a new reason to work out in the morning. It builds confidence to overcome obstacles. On days when people exercise before they work, they're more engaged and less exhausted. They see tasks as challenges to conquer rather than threats to avoid. And I 100% agree with that. And I used to be one of those people where I know this has nothing to do with insurance, but I guess it does in a way because it really sets up the day and sets the tone for the day. But I remember going in the field all day, working and grinding and selling on the phones. And then if I were to work out in the evening, what would I do? Most of the time, I'd skip my workout because I'm just exhausted to that point. But on those days where I'm just, waking up early, getting my workout in, I'm fired up and motivated to conquer the rest of the day. So I love that you do that, Adam. I really appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah.
As far as leads go, what days and how many days a week are you ordering leads?
It's at least like 3 times a week, 2, 3 times a week. It really depends. I do a little bit of everything. So I'll do some live transfers, I'll do some mortgage mailers, I'll buy some leads, ILC leads, Nectar. It's kind of just whatever is kind of flowing, whatever's working really good. I'm sure we've all experienced a really great week with a lead vendor, and then the next week it's the complete opposite. And it's just kind of riding that wave. Just when something's working, ride it until it stops working, and then try something different. But I'd say like, usually like Sundays, Wednesdays, I usually buy leads like 2, 3 times a week. But if I'm doing like a lot of mailers, they kind of just come in as they come in. And it's more like appointment based, not so much like one call closes.
Mhm.
So it kind of just depends on what, really is working.
I love that. So you're diversifying your lead flow. Talk about how important that is. And I like how you said like one batch might work this week and it might not work next week. You know what I mean? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been there. The amount of times I've protected 10, 15 families in a week, and then the next week, nothing. Last week I didn't make any sales. This week I did 10K, helped 10 families. So that was crazy. And it was the same thing, same leads. It's just, you're never gonna have, that's the thing in this business every day you're not going to have the same results. Even sometimes every week you're not going to have the same results, but month to month, year to year, the trajectory is just up. I mean, if I look at what I was doing last year, not even just the numbers but the quality of business, the retention of the business, it's just gone up. And quite frankly, my lead spend hasn't gone up like crazy. So it's just I'm working the leads better, and just try lots of trial and error. I've tried probably 20 different lead vendors, all sorts of stuff, and I keep a handful in my rotation to just kind of cycle through what works.
Someone just asked a question, and this is actually a great question. When do you decide that a lead source slash type isn't working anymore?
It's kind of hard. I mean, it's a fine line between, listen, it's like you don't want to quit when you're, because it's just a numbers game, right? So like if you're taking, if you call 500 people, right? The odds are the next person you call is going to be a sale is much higher than if you were 100 dials in, right? So it's just kind of, you can kind of get a flow of like what the quality of lead is. Like if, for instance, I used to do a lot of live transfers. So I had like three different live transfer companies I would cycle through. And, they all use marketing, right? They're all just running ads and then getting these leads and calling them.
Yep.
And then, sometimes they would be really, really good, but you'd kind of get a feeling where it's like you talk to a handful of people in a row where they're just like, what is this about? What are you calling about? I never did this. And you can kind of just, you kind of just get a feel for it. Like you kind of have your finger on the pulse and, you just kind of, it's almost just like a feeling kind of,
Yeah, 100%. And you don't know
comes
honestly,
with experience.
and you don't know until you try and keep trying and keep resolving your leads. Like I've had lead batches where I'm like, oh, this lead batch sucks. And then, I've called and called and called, and then I text them and then I book 4 or 5 appointments, right? So I think
Mhm.
there's just so many different ways to resolve your leads and making sure that you do that. One thing that you touched on that I want to go back and touch on just for everyone to hear, we talked about this like 2 weeks ago, is when you started, you were super, super focused on just submitting business. Like you didn't care if it was good, if they were going to keep the policy, if they were going to cancel, you just wanted to get paid. And that's okay. That's how it is for most of us in the beginning. But then you started really focusing on your persistency. Let's talk about how important that is and the things that you started implementing in order to increase your persistency.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when I started, I was just trying to get paid. I was wheeling and dealing. I was just I was really just selling so hard. Which is great. It's awesome, but it stinks when you get a ton of chargebacks. I remember there was one day where I got like almost 10K of chargebacks in like a 1 or 2 day period. And I was just like, what the heck am I going to do? Like, how is this? Like it was crazy. So I just really focused on like, listen, if I'm not going to twist someone's arm, I'm not going to argue with them. And that's the thing, like going into it, not with this mindset of a salesperson, going into it with just a mindset of like, you're just a professional trying to do your job, trying to help people. That'll come across. If you're genuine and honest with these people, it's going to come across, and they're going to tell you if it's too expensive, or they're going to tell you if, I really don't know if I need this much or this or that. They're going to be honest with you if you build that connection. Not to mention, when you do build those really solid connections, you're going to get a lot more referrals. Which my business, I am huge on referrals. The amount of times where, I've protected one family and then I get 10 referrals out of it, and I end up protecting 10 families off that one lead that was just originally, one family. It happens all of the time. I just had a client text me like 20 minutes ago. She wants to get some coverage for her mom. It's and you get that by building a really good relationship. Just being friendly, being honest with them, checking in on them. I have a CRM that texts them like happy birthday, 4th of July, Thanksgiving. It sends them these reminders, and they're like, oh, this guy's nice. And little things. I know some people, they like to send out like little postcards or little packets, and just a little bit of effort really does go a long
A
way,
long way.
because again, like, you can make a sale to one guy, and sure, you'll sell one policy, and then he'll be like, hey, my coworker actually is having a kid and he needs some life insurance, and then you protect three families out of that. It's just,
Yeah.
it's super huge just to build that relationship and just writing quality business. If they don't want it, I don't want to give it to them. I'm only looking for the people that do want it or will let me, talk to them, explain to them. And, if they don't want it, then that's fine. Like, you can work with someone else. I don't want your charge back. I don't want your business to fall off. I want people that are going to be solid and, I can have that relationship with.
I love that. And that's huge persistency. And I think another thing is like since you do write a lot of referral business, you probably notice that your persistency is a lot higher just because the original person you protected, they trust you enough to refer you to these people. So it's basically just social proof, and just that one person trusting you leads to that much higher persistency and that many more sales. You said that someone actually brought this to my attention the other day. Do you use Zipo for your texting? Is that the CRM that you use? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
I actually had Mackenzie text me the other day. She made 2 sales just from that text strip saying happy 4th of July. Like, just something that small, sending that out, she was able to get 2 sales from that. Now, it doesn't work all the time, but it adds to a couple extra sales a month or a week. Another thing that I want to mention is just asking for referrals all the time. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. And I was doing a presentation 2 days ago, and Hayden was in the other room and I'm in the office and I'm going through this presentation and I'm like almost at the end of it. And I was about to hang up and he's like texting me. He's like, dude, practice what you preach. Collect referrals. Like, what are you doing? You didn't even ask for the referrals, but I'm telling other people to do it. So at the end of the call, I was like, okay, I asked for the referrals and she actually gave me one. And that's the thing, is like, I was a little bit nervous and hesitant to ask, but because I did, she gave me a referral, and that's just an extra sale that I can make. But if I hadn't asked, I wouldn't have gotten that one extra sale. So how do you go about asking for a referral? Do you do it towards the beginning, middle, end, or where in your script do you ask?
Yeah, so I kind of set the stage for it like the whole time. So while I'm like asking about their family, who the beneficiary is, they've got kids, if they're married, this and that. That's kind of all just letting me know, okay, I could probably talk to their son or talk to their daughter, whoever. And then, at the end, once I close it, I kind of do a whole little spiel. I basically say, hey, I don't want every year insurance companies make millions of bucks off of unclaimed money, and I don't want that to happen to any of my clients. So make sure that, your kids or, whoever the beneficiary is, knows about this. So, what you can do is just send them a copy of your policy, or if you want, I can give them a call, make sure they have a copy of everything, send it over to email, and also, discuss some options for them and make sure that they're covered with their family in the same way. And so it kind of just takes it all and puts it together. It's like, I'm going to get them the info they need, and also, I'm gonna try and sell them a policy.
I love that. So once you collect the referral, are you reaching out to those clients, or are you really having them reach out to you?
I'm reaching out to them. I'm texting them, and most of the time it's like to get them the policy info, just to like, I'll either send them a copy of the policy or just give them like the policy number, the name of the insurance company, just like a little policy summary. But the whole time I'm kind of bringing up the fact that, like, yeah, I really want to make sure that you guys are covered. I'm asking about, oh, like, are you married? Basically doing a whole new pitch with them, kind of like a shortened one, while I'm trying to get them this information. And then, I basically send it over to them like, great. So I was looking at some stuff for you. I'm already pulling up quotes. I'm without, kind of just asking them like, oh, like, and how are you doing? Like, how's your health? This, that, just like very casually.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I was looking at this thing. I think this would be a really good fit for you. It's, this much coverage and it's like this, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, that's, you said it yourself. It's like when you build that trust, you don't have to sell them, you don't have to prove you're trustworthy. It's way easier, and it's just that web of connections, like, let's say you make one sale, they refer you to their friend refers you to these people, and it builds this whole web of referrals. Like, I have a couple clients where I've gotten like, 20 families out of just the
One person.
one the one person, it's like I get to one guy who's like, oh, I have like a big family, or I've
Yeah.
got, this whole team of people who I know all want this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, perfect. I'm
That's
that
the thing.
guy.
That's
So,
the thing. We used to call that a referral chain, like when you're really, really deep in the referral chain. That's awesome. Okay,
mhm.
Adam, to piggyback on dials, you said that you make minimally 500 dials a day because you know with that much activity, you're going to get a ton of presentations in. Do you have a weekly presentation goal for yourself?
Yeah, I try to hit 25 presentations a week.
Okay.
So 25 full presentations, and it doesn't count if I don't quote them.
Okay.
So, if it's like I go through the whole presentation, quote them, that, but yeah, my goal is 25 full presentations every single week.
Okay. How many so every single week, how many dials do you think? So 25 presentations a week, that's about 5 presentations a day. How many dials do you think, would you say it takes about 500 dials to get about a full 5 presentations in?
Yeah, somewhere between like 5 to 700. 500 is pretty easy. If you're using a dialer, which everyone should be using, if you're using a dialer, you should be hitting 500 a day. Um, and granted, sometimes like, you know, sometimes I'll work a whole day, but I'll have a lot of people picking up, and I'll work a full 8 hour day and only get like 400 to 500 dials in, where normally you could get close to 1,000.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean it was a loss because I presented to 8 people in a day
Yeah.
instead of 5. You know.
Love that. And how important would you say it is to keep track of your presentations that you're doing?
Oh, huge, huge. I mean, one, just, we have like in our group chat, in my agency, we post all of that. So, for you to look back and, sometimes it'll be like late at night and I'll just be sitting there and I'll be like, who was it that I talked to? And I'll go back in the chat and I'll find my little message and I'll be like, oh, you know what? I could have said this to them, and I'll just like call them up the next day and just be like, hey, I was thinking about our conversation and, this kind of came to mind, blah, 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 and it's also just for you, just improving on yourself. There's times where it's like you get off the phone, you're like, yeah, I definitely dropped the ball on that one.
Yes.
Like it happens,
Yep. 100%. And honestly, I love that you say that. And guys, tracking presentations is so important because it helps you get to where you should be. Knowing, hey, I did this presentation, I got to the quote tool, they told me they wanted to think about it, and then the call ended. That's an objection that you got, that if you track that and if you keep and continue getting that same objection, someone on the team, your manager, myself, Hayden, we can coach you through exactly what you need to say to overcome that objection next time. So I encourage, for everyone that's new watching this, track your presentations every single week because it definitely goes a long way. I love that, Adam. And do you have like a referral goal? Like out of, let's say, your 25 presentations, do you have a goal of like, oh, I want this many to be referrals, or do you just kind of go with it?
I kind of just go with it. I mean, I try and get referrals off every person I speak to. Even if I'm not selling them a policy, like if I go through a presentation and it just, they can't afford it or it doesn't work, or, it's not happening, I'll still ask. I mean, it really, what do you have to lose?
Yeah,
Like honestly, you're already not making the sale. What are you gonna do? Like scare them away? Who
exactly.
cares, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, just ask everyone, and just be genuine. And if you get rid of the salesperson mindset, it's you're just having genuine conversations with people.
Yeah. Let's do a little bit of like one of your presentations. And I know all presentations are the same because for the most part, we follow a pretty similar script. You pick lead type and we can kind of role play. I'll be the client.
Yeah, we could do like mortgage.
Perfect.
That's what I've been doing mostly lately. So
Let's do it.
okay, cool. So one thing is, a lot of people, they start and they say like, "Hey, Nina," I just say like, hey Nina, I just kind of get right into it because it's
Okay.
like, it's way more affirmative,
Mhm.
way more just, it's like, listen, if it's a guy picking up and your name's Nina, I'm just gonna say, hey, Mr. Hill, I'm just gonna say, their last name, because
Yeah.
odds are I have the right number,
Yeah.
so I'd be like, hey Nina, this is Adam calling you back on a recorded line. This is about the mortgage protection coverage. This is about that little postcard you got in the mail the other day. So I'm the underwriter that was assigned to your case to get this information out to you. So it looks like the loan amount that we have with TD Bank is 150,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect, perfect. All right. And the address that we have on file is the 123 Main Street. Is that still the correct address?
Yeah, I still live there.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And I see Mr. Hill as the co-borrower on the loan. Is it safe to assume that's your husband?
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. How long you guys been married?
Um, 3 months.
Okay. Wow, pretty fresh. I'm sorry. But yeah, and then basically from there, I would just kind of continue about, like, yeah, these are all state regulated plans, so there's no blood work, no medical exams, no one's gonna have to come out to your house. So, it's pretty simple. They just make me go over a health questionnaire with you. And then yeah, it's kind of just after that point, it's pretty just verbatim off the
Yep.
script.
Going
Um,
over
I
med.
think we're like, yeah, go over medical, medical, just kind of, building a little bit of credibility. Um, and really, like, I think where the only like special sauce I really add into it is just, you keep it really professional, but throw in a couple comments just to kind of be like, yeah, I'm still like a real person,
Yes. Mhm.
and people really appreciate that. I mean, I have the relationship I've built with a lot of my clients, especially as of the last like 6 months. Like some of them we text sometimes, like we'll talk about working out and stuff, and it's so cool. I mean, I'm not worried about losing business or it falling off. Honestly, like they all want to give me business because they're like, this guy is so cool. I love him.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, and it's not like they're talking to a robot the whole time, like making sure that that you're relatable and a human being. I love that you said that. One of the things that I loved in the intro of your script, and you don't actually hear this too often, is I'm calling you on a recorded line. Like that little line goes such a long way in the whole credibility process, right? Like it almost sounds,
Mhm.
obviously you're not calling as their lender, but you're calling on a recorded line. It builds that trust there. How do you verify your like do you give them your information, like your license number, just to kind of build more trust with the client as well?
Yeah, so it's like in the first part, right after I kind of get through that first section. I have a website. If anyone has Zepo, they give you a website,
Mhm.
and it has all of my licenses and everything on there. And I just send that over to them before they even ask for it,
Mhm.
simply because it's like, I don't want them to ask. I just kind of want to be totally upfront, get them all the info they need. That way they're not like, what's your license number? How do I know you're not a scammer?
Yeah,
This is that.
yeah,
Yeah, so I just tell them like, hey, I just sent you a text to my direct website. This is gonna have all my license info on there. So if you scroll down, if you click on Florida, that's gonna show you my state license. It'll show you if you type that in on Department of Insurance website, it's gonna show you all my licenses, the carriers I work with, and even what I had for breakfast. Just like a little comment like that too at the end. They're like, oh, ha ha ha. It's like
more
they
comfortable.
like that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes them comfortable, and they're not having to ask you. You're just giving them everything to where it's like if they feel skeptical, like that's a them problem.
Yep.
Like that's on them. They're
They're
sus.
skeptical of
They're just
everyone.
skeptical of everything.
Yeah. I love that. And if you guys don't have Zepo, I encourage you guys to use it. It's an amazing texting service. But not only that, you get that licensing page included on there, and it just builds that much more credibility with every single client that you guys talk to. So Wow, that was really, really good, Adam. So you go through that, you go through quotes. Obviously, we have to overcome objections every single day. No matter what it is, we're always going to have objections. At the end of the day, we're in a sales job. What are some of the most common objections that you get in a mortgage protection appointment?
Um, them saying like, is this like required?
Mhm.
Which is just kind of like, honestly, if someone says that, they're like, is this a requirement? I'll be like, no, absolutely not. Like the big thing is like, if someone's objecting anything you're saying, just agree with them, just be like, yeah, I feel you, but this, and that, because you don't want to argue. They don't want, no one wants to talk to a salesperson,
Right.
that's the reality of it. So it's like if they're saying, do I need to have this? I'm like, no, it's not a requirement, but if something happens to you, this is going to pay off your home. That way, your wife is not going to lose the house, So, I mean, a lot of people do want this, and saying things like most people, most of my clients, a lot of people want to feel like they're part of the herd, right?
Yep.
So they're gonna be like, oh, everyone's doing this. Like, I guess I should do it too,
I love that. What if someone says, because what people think, they think that PMI is also mortgage protection. What do you say in that case? If someone says, oh, I already have this included, I'm paying for it with my mortgage.
Yeah. So if they say that, I mean, they just don't really understand what PMI coverage is.
Yeah.
So I'll just basically tell them, be like, yeah, so PMI, I'll ask, I'll say like, oh, is that like coming out with your mortgage payment? Like, is that lumped in with your mortgage payment? If they say yes, I'm like, yeah, so that's PMI coverage, right? And if they know, they, most people, they're like, I guess, or I don't know. Then I have to explain. I'm like, yeah, so basically, like, if you don't put more than 20% down, you got to insure your loan. Basically, if you stop paying, the bank's taken care of. That's not going to do anything for your family. So if you decide to just stop paying your mortgage, the bank's going to be fine. But what this is going to do is if something happens to you, let's say you pass away, obviously you're not going to be able to make those mortgage payments. You're dead. So, this is going to make sure that your wife is going to have enough money to cover, the whole mortgage, either the entire thing partially or, for a certain amount of time.
Yep. I love that. That is spot on. Well, Adam, you absolutely crushed it. You are so freaking sharp, and it's no surprise that you're helping so many families. What is your goal for the rest of this year, production wise, and then all of next year? Since we're basically, are we in fourth quarter? No, we're about to be in fourth quarter, or are we?
I think we're about to be. Yeah, I think we're about to
That's
be in
crazy.
fourth.
Where is this year going?
I have no idea.
It's insane. But what is your
um,
goal for this year and all of next year?
I mean, I'm trying to hit Hall of Fame this year. Same with next year. As someone where it's like, I really didn't get the ball rolling like super hard until the start of this year. Like I said, I really got started in May of 2022, and then this year's when I'm so locked in, I'm comfortable. It's not really, like user error for me, like dropping the ball anymore. Like it doesn't really happen as much. So, honestly, it really comes down to like a big thing for me is like it's time versus money, right? So
Yeah.
like it's the same way, like if you're talking about like investing or anything, like an IUL, right? Someone who's like 50 and wants an IUL, they've got to put a lot more money in it to get to whatever goal they want. Whereas if you start when you're 5 years old, you don't have to put as much money in to get to that end goal, right?
Yeah.
So it's really just time versus money. If you have more time, you can afford to spend a little bit less on leads because you can work them harder. Whereas if you don't have as much time, you're going to have to spend money on higher quality leads, more leads, maybe like a 3-line dialer that can call like 3 people at once.
Mhm.
There's all sorts of stuff like that. But, really for me, I mean, I'm just trying to hit Hall of Fame, this year and next year. So
Let's
let's get it
go.
popping.
Well, you're definitely a Hall of Fame producer. You're an absolute killer. Thank you so much, Adam, for getting on today. We're going to make sure this is up on YouTube today. You guys have an amazing rest of your Thursday. We're going into another week as of today. Let's have a great day. Bye for now.